If I go to the east, he is not there. If I go to the west, I do not find him. When he is at work in the north, I do not see him. When he turns to the south, I catch no glimpse of him. But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. My feet have closely followed his steps. I have kept to his way without turning aside. I have not departed. Not departed from the commandment of his lips. I have treasured the words of his mouth more than my daily bread. But he stands alone, and who can oppose him? He does whatever he pleases. He carries out his decree against me, and many such plans he still has in store. That is why I am terrified before him. When I think of all this, I fear him. God has made my heart faint. The Almighty has terrified me. Yet I am not silenced by the darkness, by the thick darkness that covers my face. Amen.
Yo, 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 what's going on? What's going on? Back in this bitch. This is Go Deep 148 in this bitch. With your favorite freaking black guy from the state of South Carolina. It's damn right. Charleston, to be exact. We are back in this bitch. Go Deep episode 148. I hope y'all boys like that intro. That intro was made by my homeboy, Andy Escobar. He made that a long time ago. Like when I first started doing Go Deep, Andy hit me up in my comment section and just, shit, we've been friends ever since. So he made that intro. Andy is a cool dude. I hope y'all liked it. I love to listen to that shit sometimes because sometimes that shit just come through like a fucking tornado. Sometimes I listen to that. It's called Batman Departed, if you want to look it up on YouTube. Batman Departed. Sometimes, yo, on your journey, you know, like I was talking to my homeboy Jeff today, sometimes you gotta put on your suit of armor and go out. But before you do that, you better pray, right? And that's what that fucking intro is about. That's what that intro is about. I listen to that shit so fucking much. I'm probably responsible for all of Andy's views on that video. And I'd have put it on Go Deep like twice. And I've probably downloaded it where I can listen to it 1,000,000 times, which I have. Not probably, it's 100% true. But we'll get off that intro and we'll, you know how you do. You gotta get in some music. But I'm sure if you saw the title, you're probably waiting for me to start talking. And that's what we shall do. But before that, you know the rules. To get your mind right, you gotta listen to some music. I'm about to play the deepest song you have probably ever heard in your life. No, I'm not saying it's the deepest, but just listen to the lyrics. I might chop and screw it. I might not, I don't know. I'm recording right now, but depending on the feeling that I get from it, I might slow it down, but maybe not. The song is so fucking hard. I mean, just listen to the lyrics. The lyrics, when you first hear it, is gonna sound like, yo, I don't know what the fuck this guy is talking about. But after a few more listens, you're gonna be like, oh my God. It's the perfect, it's like the theme song for Go Deep. But I haven't really played it yet, but it's fucking deep. So let's get into it. If you're a Wu-Tang fan, you know who this is. This is my dog, War Cloud, aka Holocaust. He got a fucking song called Blunts, Martinis, Girls and Guns. Yes, listen to the shit. Be right back. Go Deep, episode 148. Your bitch.
Black Knights. West Coast, killer be killed. Black Knights. Black Knights. You hear from the distance. Yo, my brain sprouts branches, blossoming tragic thoughts, takes bully lyrics, lunch money, pistols or a microphone. Welcome to LA, battle the unexplained. Scarecrows and apples, meet Mr. Constrictus. Concrete knuckles and scuffles, our waist groups. Give them lumps the size of footballs, bricks and grapefruit. Make soup, blueberry while dining with classic monsters. Better check my sponsor, chop before you can answer. Brothers in the Contra, bullet holes in the stop sign. Gods in the neighborhood, pistol in the sunset. Lyrics that bench press dump trucks with one thrust. Faster than sound light or speed that your gun bust among us. West Coast wreck hopes, infect dope. Whining cause your last Holocaust cassette broke. The hunchback, tic-tac heads come to get you. 943 missiles made of crystal. Light a match to those. The crowd put all their lighters up. Stomp through the graveyard in the rain. The architect, bricks in the mud. The cold weather is scorching. For boxcar children and orphans, brought a portrait. Chewing on cactus, rappers better practice. Slimy like a catfish, dollars in the mattress. A hand-carved pipe from Baton Rouge, the Cherokee. Grand High count, feed macadamias to parakeets. French lemonade, skeletons on the highway. Club gets rowdy, I'll box my way out. Poor righteous teacher, devils better fear us. On my pistol, splatter your brains across the mirrors. Blunts, martinis, girls and guns. Cut him like a fish, the man who bled marbles. Bloody Mr. Fix-It, Holocaust and guns. Stumble through the doorway wearing my evening change. Real as the hallway, red and blue Crayolas. Now leaving stains, architect from Cali. Rumble through the mist-covered valleys, dirty alleys. Crumbs in your suitcase, ice fishing with pelicans. Big old cackling skeleton, you're irrelevant. Riding jeweled elephants, California horizon. Track mud through the kitchen, murder henchmen. Strange man's pockets, cigarettes and candy. Walk with a limp, chance of a lifetime. Bandit swamp cyborg crank, tic-tac, blow holes through MCs, size of bowling balls. Briefcase man, champ, my flavor's building. Set a fishbowl full of jelly beans out for the neighbor's children. Two-fisted brawler, good times in the sunlight. Trapped in one night, your caller cause a gunfight. All the Holocaust is sleepy, holding microphones. 4 dead men in the alley. The butcher, shirts with the blossoms. West Coast, the gentleman, holding a pistol. Smoke blunts for hours to understand the language of flowers. Gritty mugshot, Mr. Arms and Legs. Drool bullets, bedtime, time to turn in, but into what? A well-set table, third rock from the sun. Dead men hung, Cadillacs and dinosaurs. Hot peanuts and fireworks, a holocaust. Blunts, martinis, girls and guns. Blunts, martinis, girls and guns. Blunts, martinis, girls and guns. Girls and guns. Girls and guns. Blunts, martinis, girls and guns. Blunts, martinis, girls and guns. Blunts, martinis, girls and guns. Girls and guns. Girls and guns.
Good freaking Lord, I hope y'all boys like that song. God damn. I don't know what kind of... I know I got a lot of white listeners. I know I got a lot of white male listeners. But there's been a lot of white male fans of Wu-Tang. That was one of the fucking craziest Wu-Tang songs ever. And it was fucking screwed up because you're on Go Deep. And you gotta go deep. This is a whole nother fucking realm. This is another fucking planet, this podcast. And sometimes I gotta get back on Earth. And that should be corny. But today is one of those times that I gotta get back on Earth because it feel like I'm just trying to figure out good ways to say this, but just let's go to the beginning of this movement, right? Well, in my opinion, from my perspective, a go deep perspective. I might put some chimes in the background for that one, but so we in the movement, you know, we saw Man of Steel, we saw Batman vs Superman, and then shit start getting rocky, you know. But the fans, we really didn't know how rocky that shit was getting. We just was getting reports and reading what the report says, you know. But the movie was so secretive, there were people coming out like scoopers, and they'll be online every now and then, and they'll talk about Justice League, you know, whatever, just scoopers, and that grew like a movement. But when the scoopers it was kind of building up because we were all like the fandom, or everybody online was, well, I don't know everybody online, but for the most part, a lot of people was just, you know, waiting for the movie to come out. You know, Marvel was doing its thing. But everybody was kind of tired of that shit. And plus, since Batman vs Superman was so dope, even though they put the theatrical version out first, it was kind of messed it up a little bit. But everybody still loved Batman vs Superman. That's mostly everybody in this movement's favorite movie, including mine. So the anticipation was growing for Justice League. And if you can remember, there's a bunch of scoopers online. Like I said, I don't know all their names, and it'd be stupid of me to try to even say what they were saying, but we know the scoopers was out. People were writing articles about what was going on. And then Zack Snyder had to step down. Situation in the family. Everybody was like, yo, what we were just confused. I was confused. I don't know if anybody else was, but we were just confused. Nobody really knew what it was because we were still believing reports of Warner Brothers saying shit like, well, it's still gonna be a Zack Snyder movie. We're just tightening it up, or we're just, you know, putting the bow on the top or whatever. But they did it with a dude, Joss Whedon, from the Avengers movies from Marvel. And it was like, all right, well, if anybody could do it, it'd be him. That's what everybody was feeling because we were still hopeful that it's gonna be dope. Then the scoopers start hearing some shit about Mustache Gate and the reshoots. You know, Henry Cavill he got a mustache, and Mission Impossible not letting him fucking cut it off. So what's going to happen? You start hearing shit about that. And everybody was still like, damn, whatever. But it was still, the anticipation was so big, we just kind of brushed it off. Whatever. I still want to see it. What's going to happen? You know, we didn't even think Superman was going to be in the movie for that long. We didn't know. Whatever. So everybody was like, well, I'm sure that Joss Whedon will fix it, you know? So they were thinking CGI or whatever. I don't remember how they end up doing. I heard it was like tape, and then they did CGI over green tape or whatever. I don't remember. But so the movie come out, Justice League, and that's the first thing we see. We notice his mouth look crazy, like immediately. The first scene was he was flying on some little guys, some little kids. Everybody know the first scene. And he with some little kids on their cell phone and shit like that. But he looked fucked up. All right, whatever. Whatever. Then the rest of the movie goes off, plays, and I think from the anticipation of these last few years, you kind of was still liking the movie. Even is whatever. Joss Whedon did what he did. But when you first saw it, you were still kind of just so hype. You just liked it. But then you're like, after that hypeness wears down, you see that, this is not the movie, that I was thinking it was going to be. Plus, you got these people in your ear telling you online, because now the bloggers now the scoopers have turned into bloggers, and now they're telling what's going on the Justice League. And everybody like, oh shit, did this happen? John Campea, he was just talking negative of it, and everybody wanted to fight John Campea. But looking back at it, was John Campea saying negative shit about what happened? Because we all end up saying negative shit about what happened looking back on the 2020. So was he just the first one? We hate Justice League. We hate what happened with Zack. But I don't know. Well, this dude caught a lot of hell, John Campea, and I gave him a lot of hell because I hated all the stuff he was saying about the shit. But looking back at it, it was like, that made you want to learn. Like, John Campea was given, he was kind of like clickbaity, he was given titling to make you want to look at what's going on in the Justice League movie. But then he would start talking shit about it. And I think Dave Pena picked up that technique later on in the game also. But so anyway, we started realizing, a lot of people were starting to say it, and then, Dave, Chris Wong, Film Gob, it was a lot of people. Lantern was doing it at the time. Totally Random. And there were a bunch of videos now, a bunch of YouTubers, a bunch of podcasters, and a bunch of people talking about what happened behind the scenes and why did this movie, because around this time we started feeling like this movie sucks now. After hearing all of this shit, the fucking high wears down from BVS, or the high wears down from, waiting to see this movie. Now you start to hate Justice League, whatever. You're like, damn. And you find out that what they did to Zack Snyder, and it makes you hate the movie even more. And a lot of things we don't know went on also, but a few of us know it, but a lot of people don't want to talk about it because it's tied to Trump. And a lot of people are being real too political in their own viewpoints to see how Trump is directly tied into the Snyder Cut movement. So around, if we rewind a little bit, before that, there was going to be a merger with AT&T and Warner Brothers. And but before that, there was these people talking about, Warner Brothers might just sell off their DC Comics titles because everybody wanted to go into streaming. The streaming wars was about to get big because Netflix was killing it. So now there was a few people that was wanting to go into streaming, including Disney, as we see now with their Disney Plus. But we lived this unveiling on the planet, we lived this shit. We're a big part of it, if a lot of people don't know. So Disney was trying to buy up a lot of people's intellectual properties and, just have more streaming content. And they were buying up everybody's shit. Comcast was in the building bidding for a few. And pretty much Disney was just running away with a lot of shit. But everybody heard that Warner Brothers might try to sell off the DC properties. But I think maybe it was everybody came in at that time because that's a lot of fucking content. I think Comcast, I think maybe Disney probably put in a bid also. I don't even remember, but I know AT&T showed a lot of interest, right? So AT&T pretty much could outbid all of them. And it was pretty much theirs to lose. So when fucking AT&T put in their bid, it was like, all right, Warner Brothers might have new management soon. There's a good possibility they will. So what did they do? They had a movie with a huge budget, Justice League, that's gonna premiere during the merger, like around that same time. And they were trying to, like I said, go to streaming and go to the internet and all this other shit like that. So with this streaming shit, what they can do is make cheaper movies, like 70 million budget, and just go a total different route from the big blockbuster. As we see, that's what they did. But there was still a blockbuster that needed to be paid for. That's right in the mix. And it's fucking Justice League. So when the tragedy happened with Zack Snyder, it was like in the 12th, I don't know what hour it was, in the 12th hour or whatever. But it was like, damn, he was, as we see now, like 90-something% done with the movie, And when he had to step away, what a fucking reputable company would have did is let him, grieve and take care of his family and then come back and finish the movie that he's been working for the past umpteen years on, But they didn't do that because they knew they were about to get new management in, and they just didn't do that. Like, wow, that's what really happened. So now these fans are hearing about it through bloggers, through fucking YouTubers, and now these fans are just getting huge and big and pissed. But all right. That was me fast forwarding from the merger, or I'm still getting on how Trump was involved. So then the merger comes, and Donald Trump, the president, threatens to block the merger. He goes public and says, because CNN is a part of this merger, they are fake news, and if you don't find something to do with them, we're gonna block this merger from AT&T and fucking Warner Brothers. But so now they think, oh shit, the merger could be blocked. We might not have new bosses, and we got this big ass movie on our hands, and we fucking might have to sell our fucking intellectual properties off to Disney. All this shit is going on at one time because now the merger is being threatened to be blocked. So nothing really happened because Trump kind of pulls out. Like he just threatened it, but he didn't really do anything about it. The merger goes by cleanly, and AT&T purchases Warner Brothers. While the movement is becoming in its infancy now, all this shit is going on and we're figuring it out. So now a bunch of bloggers and shit start talking to us and just revving up a lot of people. But not only that, Fiona, and I don't know exactly who started who actually built the first website or not the hashtag, the sign the petition. But from my point of view, it was Fiona. Or that, she kind of was like the leader of this movement online. So if you're online and you hear anything about this new movement that's brewing up called the Release the Snyder Cut movement, and it comes with a petition, it's Fiona heading it up. So everybody in that around it, listening to it, watching these podcasts and these videos and all this shit like that, they knew what the Release the Snyder Cut hashtag was, because it was basically like a place to go to get all this news that you want to know about your favorite movie director on the biggest budget film that was supposed to take down all this Marvel BS. There's so much now. You got a place to go. Release the Snyder Cut hashtag, right? So Fiona, just from my point of view, she was doing her thing. She was killing it. The movement was growing. From my point of view, still, I thought Fiona was like Zack Snyder's assistant. This is just me looking at it from my point of view. I thought Fiona was Zack Snyder's assistant because at that same time, we were making little videos for my kids while we will all watch like Snyder Cut videos when they come over, because at that time I was working night shift. So all through the day, I could keep my kids. And that's what we would do. We would just watch Snyder Cut videos all the time and shit like that. And just... So they were making little like comedy videos, and they wanted to make Snyder Cut videos. So we did that. We made some Snyder Cut videos real quick. We made like 3 of them. And Fiona came into the I think she came in one of the comment section, and she was like, yo, put Release the Snyder Cut hashtag on it. I said, all right. So we did it. And now it felt like we were just a part of the movement. Cool. But then we started meeting a bunch of people. Like a bunch of people started coming in the comment section. And their first video got like 1,000 views and shit. They went from nothing to like 100 subscribers and 1,000 views pretty much overnight because Fiona shared it on her page. But then all these people started coming in to like, like their comment section and shit like that. These people who me as the kid's dad at the time, that's 2 years ago. So Kimura was 11, at that time, I'm reading those comments, like any dad would, So now I'm just meeting a bunch of people. A bunch of people I still see in the movement today. That was watching my kids' videos, and that's cool because I thought my kids' videos was cool too. I helped them make the shit. So I started meeting people, and so then I was like, all right, fuck it, let's get a Vero. So now I'm really meeting people in this movement. This is just my journey going through this shit because this is my fucking podcast and I can give you my perspective and journey. So then I got a Vero so I can see Fiona post it. And I thought Fiona was still Zack Snyder. At that time, I thought Fiona was Zack Snyder's fucking assistant. So Fiona posted it. Zack Snyder liked it. I was like, what? That blew my mind. That blew the kids' mind. They were talking about it like it soccer. Like we were going to play soccer. I coached them in soccer. So they were talking about it, like telling people, Zack Snyder liked my video. And we didn't, the little kids didn't even know who Zack Snyder was. And they thought because they've been spending all month or two, listening to videos about the Snyder Cut movement. So that shit blew us the fuck up. We went crazy. So we did more videos. I have a Vero page. I started it, and I still kept the same picture. I still got the same picture as my two boys in their fucking Batman and Superman costume. And it's not, we never did it for the page. I've been a Nolan, ever since Nolan, all of my kids got Batman shit. And since fucking Man of Steel, now they got some Superman shit. And that's just been us. We not posing or nothing. That's just who we are. Everybody in the city will tell you that. I bought a black 545 BMW one time, and then I put a fucking Batman sticker on the back. That was like the Bat fucking mobile. But that's just who we are, guys. But let me continue. So now I'm on Vero. I'm meeting fucking all these people. All these like different people or from all over the world. And they all have like, they're all different. But then they're all kind of the same. You know, they're all like different, but they're kind of the same. But I met some cool people on Vero. I met some of the coolest people. I met all the people I know now. No, I met a few on Twitter now, but I met most of the cool people on Vero. And so my kids did a few more videos. Fiona posted them. So basically Fiona brought us into the movement. So now I get to see who so this is gonna be such a long story, guys. I'm gonna just tell you right now, this is probably gonna be like a multiple part series. And since I'm gonna just interview myself I'm gonna just do my own podcast for a few more times. This multiple part series is pretty much gonna be about my story, you know, because this is gonna touch a lot of people listening, and a lot of people that I did podcasts with, and a lot of people in the movement that's been listening to this podcast, and is gonna touch, when I'm finished, a lot of people in the movement that's been dealing with some people who I have done podcasts with. It's gonna make sense about the whole thing. And that's what we're gonna talk about in this next few part series. So now I'm in Vero. But at the time, I'm not talking to nobody because I'm going through a breakup of a girl who I probably shouldn't be with, but I was with her anyway. So I'm going through a breakup when I first get to Vero. And I didn't really talk to nobody that much. But I see people, like always, talking about, I don't know, it's at first I thought Vero was like, you gotta have like a camera, or you gotta be like a content creator or something like that. And I just was kind of just looking for people like Zack Snyder. So I'm just following everybody, but I'm also reading Zack Snyder's comments, because that's all I went on Vero to do, is go read Zack Snyder's comments. And on whatever he dropped a picture, the comment section was fucking the coolest part of Vero, in my opinion, at one time. So then I'm meeting a bunch of people and just, you know, accepting, trying to be friends, or, you know, I don't know, adding people. I don't know what it's called on Vero. Adding people or following people or whatever. So while I do that, I get to see what, you know, what other people think about the movement or whatever. So I just sat back for a long time and I just watched and read comments, right? But when I'm reading the comments, like a lot of people are just like trying to get Zack Snyder's attention. Like, hey, Zack, how's it going today? You had coffee yet? Or, hey, Zack, how's it going today? Did you have lunch? You're looking great, Zack. And blah, 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 blah. You know, all kind of stuff like that. And that was cool, but it seemed like a lot of people were just like brown nosing, you know. And I just was reading. Fuck it. I'm new here. I'm just trying to figure out what's the vibe in this shit. So then, you know, I started, people started talking to me. I don't know. I don't know where I just posting shit. I don't know why people. No. I remember. So I fucking so the kids had to go back to school. So I couldn't do podcasts with them that much because it wasn't like the summertime. We're not just chilling at the house. So the kids went back to school, and I started doing the podcast just to continue, because not only were they watching it in the room, I was watching it too. So now I'm doing my podcast of my perspective of what's going on. And when I did it, my first few interviews, I did a podcast, and my first few interviews was Jacob Torres and Alexander Khan. And because at the time, Jacob Torres was like, he was like the man on Vero. So I was like, damn, all right. Jacob got all the fucking crack. He got all the damn, new news, whatever. So I was like, yo, let me interview you. He said, all right. And we did it. And I did one with Alexander Khan. And Khan was like one of the first. And I did it with, I did a podcast with Geraldo Cortez from TPZ. So, but when I'm doing the interviews, I'm just looking to see who's pretty much putting in the most work in the movement. That's who I was just talking to, and I saw these three guys doing a lot. So, but also when I did it, my first few interviews, I put like Queen on the music in the beginning. My intro song was like "We Are the Champions" from Queen or something like that. And I don't even know why I did that, but some people started liking it. But Queen, people, if you like hip hop, you like Queen for some reason, because a lot of their samples go good in hip hop. So people started liking it. They were like, Queen, all right, whatever. Yo, look at this dude. This dude like Snyder and Queen. That's what people were saying. So I started making a lot of friends just by putting Queen on the shit. So then people just start sharing my shit just out of note. Like, you can look at the Vero shit and like 10 people would share it. So I'm like, yo, what? This is some cool shit. I never had nobody shit. You could put something out on Facebook and, a few people might look at it. But no, on Vero, they just was like, fuck it. He talking about Zach, share. So I'm like, dog, this is the greatest app I've ever been on, That's what I was like, yo, this is the fucking, who are these fucking people, dog? All these people are on point. I was blown a fucking way from Vero at first, because they just was all sharing the shit out of, basically supporting me, helping support the fucking channel. So I was like, yo, that's some cool shit. Cool. So damn, let me give them boys some more content. I know about Zack Snyder. Maybe I know, And then at the time also, I'm reading the comment sections, and not a lot of people are really talking about what Zack Snyder be putting in his movies. A lot of people just still brown nosing. So I said, damn, there's a lane of some real shit, because nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about the deep parts of Zack Snyder's shit. So I said, I'll do it, because I know this shit. And for some reason, this is the type of shit that I love to study. I don't know why, but I've been doing it for years. So I got my own lane. Fuck it. Let's talk about some real shit. Some deep shit in the Snyder Cut movement. And that's what I started doing. From 9/11 to fucking Nexium, Conspiracy, JFK. All of that shit was in Go Deeps. When y'all go back and actually look at the content that I put out over the last 2 years, y'all gonna be like, wow. When y'all catch up, you're gonna be like, wow, because it's all in there. It's all in there. And what I'm saying all is the fucking journey. This is what Zack Snyder has been trying to tell us, or has been putting out. But the journey is also what we, all right, so like the journey. Think of Frodo Baggins and, Sam. They were in the Shire just regular people, regular dudes. They had to, eventually they took a trip that changed their lives. They got hurt. They were happy. They fucking ate. They cried. Everything happened. Everything you can think of happened on their journey, but they ended up saving the world. Right? So if you look at like Man of Steel, you can see the journey of Superman. He was a little kid on the farm, fucking had some issues he had to deal with, got bullied, had to deal with his senses over, he had to deal with a lot, but he was on his journey. Not only that, he grew up, he was in between job to job, getting beat down, getting picked on, getting bullied again, having to walk away. He's on his journey. Not only that, there were some flashbacks that showed his dad died in the tornado when he was a teenager, when he was a sassy ass teenager, once again on his journey. But you can put this in a lot of shit, but Zack Snyder also is telling a journey that a lot of what they call like conspiracy theorists have been on. A journey where you go learn about this technology that most people can't believe of, just like blow you away technology, right? That's the type of shit I was talking about in my podcast. Not only to blow you away technology, what that technology is supposed to do, like fucking AI, CERN, all this other shit, like going to the dark side and blah, blah, blah. Zack Snyder was going to tell us that in this movie. Not only was going to the dark side, he was doing death and rebirth also. Superman died on his journey, but he's a Krypton. He was coming back. All right. This is type of shit I'm talking about, but let me continue to focus on the movement, because that's what this shit is, and that's where we're going to get the most ahas. So now, my podcast is going. I'm talking about all the real shit. I'm talking about some shit that ain't nobody else talking about in this movement. Everybody else is just trying to catch news and be the first one with the story and be a scooper and shit like that. But people started doing more shit than just scooping. People started like changing the narrative on stories. Or not changing the narrative, interpreting the narrative how they want. And you can see like what Jim Lee said the other day. He was like, the crowd is going to be like, did he say Snyder Cut good? Did he say it bad? Did he say it happy? Did he say it sad? That's what we did. Everybody just start interpreting however they thought this news meant. But different interpretations now are getting the movement split. One person want to go the way of Dave the Film Junkie. One crew want to go the way of Chris Wong. But it was split because their interpretations was different. Chris Wong was always happy, joyful, trying to push you towards just hope, I guess. Then Dave the Film Junkie started being on some bitch shit and saying, oh, nah, you're not going to get the Snyder Cut. You're not going to get it. Zack Snyder's, he's in San Diego, but he's not going to go. And everybody, it was true. He didn't show up. But the movement was so fucking crazy. We were big at the time. Everybody was, I think it was Chris Wong. We were fucking, he was live streaming it. And it turned out, damn, Dave the Film Junkie was right. Zack Snyder didn't show up. It was the biggest letdown. It was the biggest letdown. So then, Dave the Film Junkie started getting all the fucking subscribers. He blew the fuck up because we were like, damn, Dave the Film Junkie knows some shit. And then we listened, and he was like, oh yeah, he was gloating then. Oh, my source this, my source that. My source said he wasn't gonna come, blah blah blah. You know, I told you guys, you know, I mean, I have a source. That's he just always say that shit. And everybody was like, damn, all right, but the fuck, what? You're just a fucking YouTuber. What source do you have? Are you just a person, or are you one of us, just like a dude doing YouTube? Do you have a source in this shit? Really? All right, who are you? Who is your source? He never said, he never told. But his source was correct that the movement was huge, or not as big as we are now, but the movement was big, and we were all tuned in, hoping to see Zack Snyder. So who was this source, and what did he say? He said Zack Snyder wasn't coming, and the Snyder Cut's not gonna come out. They're not gonna announce it. That's what the source said, and Dave the Film Junkie interpreted it. And he was right. So for the next few weeks, Dave the Film Junkie was eating off this shit. And, I mean, deservedly so. You know, we were just like, damn, all right, he got it right. But really, he had a 50-50 chance. But now, looking back on it, he knew some shit. All right. Who would want to discourage Zack Snyder from coming to fucking Comic-Con when all the fans are saying we want the Snyder Cut? And hoping and probably wishing that this is what we're about to get. Who's that big to call that off? And why do they know fucking Dave the Film Junkie? Why indeed? Dun dun. So now that people started figuring that out, or that started bubbling into people's heads, like, yo, what just happened here, right? But then Dave now, I guess, started listening to this source a lot. And he needed more content, so he just said whatever the source wanted him to say. And he milked it. My source, my source, my source is probably like a hashtag now. Dave the Film Junkie, my source, hashtag my source. But everybody started wanting to do it. Now everybody was trying to get close with Dave. But then all the people in not the streets, but all the people listening, I guess in the crowd, started getting tired of Dave. And they started talking amongst themselves like, hey man, this fucking, what the hell is going on? We thought we made it clear we wanted the Snyder Cut, and how is this dude Dave knowing that we ain't gonna get it, and blah blah blah. Everybody know what ended up happening with me and Dave, because I questioned those shit. I questioned him like, yo, why are you so anti everything that comes out, you know, of fucking, we put together this big rah-rah statement over here, then you come with some negative shit. I was the one that questioned Dave. I don't know if everybody was scared, but I think other people have questioned him before. But he invited me on his fucking show, and everybody know what happened. At that time, I was doing a podcast, and a few people were listening, not much. Like, shit, it was like the core, I guess. I don't know. My core audience. But now my shit started blowing up. But at the time when it started blowing up, people already knew who I was from Vero. Not many people knew me from Twitter, even though I had a Twitter page already. But so as my podcast started getting bigger and bigger, I started, you know, I don't know whether I wasn't gaining a following because of shit that I was saying, but I was gaining a following because I was questioning a lot of bullshit that was going on, not only from Dave the Film Junkie, but from Garza and a lot of other people we call the 40 Club. But a lot of people were questioning them. They just wasn't saying it. And where would they say it at? They would say it in these groups. Like I did a video the other day called The Sandbox. And a lot of people probably still don't know what The Sandbox is, but I'm going to tell you now because we're talking about The Sandbox. Chapter 2, Sandbox. So now you get to the fucking chat rooms. And everybody's talking shit about Dave the Film Junkie. Everybody's talking shit about Garza. Everybody's talking shit constantly every day. That's the mood. Every day. Reading some more shit. And I think that's what charged me up to go. Because I just reading it all day. Right? But then we're in these movements. And like in these chat rooms. But I be the only one that say it. I be the only one that say what the majority of people thought. But at the time, I thought these were my friends, right? So I thought I was just standing up for my friends. If they going through something enough to fucking, go to a chat room and talk about it for 7 days or 8 days or 9 days, I'm thinking, damn, my friend going through some shit. These little fucking internet dudes ain't no fucking threat. I'll say something. And that's what I always did because I thought these dudes was my friends. Whatever. So now, while you're reading these shit, and this is the movement. And everybody know I'm deep in the movement. So, whatever. You're reading these shit, and you're coming to, like I said, just they're steering you. But at the time, you don't see it that way. You think you're just holding it down for the crew. But no, you're being steered into fucking having a beef with X, Y, and Z. Because your homies got a beef with X, Y, and Z. All right. But what that beef do in real life? Nothing. It ain't no fucking beef, like nobody coming to shoot at you. But I bet you were distracted all day. I bet you were looking through your fucking phone all day to see what X, Y, and Z said on Twitter or see what Peely said on his podcast or whatever. I bet you didn't get enough work done because you were bogged down looking through some fucking chat rooms that just sprouted up off a fucking movement that hopes to see a movie, But are we doing it to see a movie now, or are we just fucking talking shit about people all day? We were just talking shit about people all day. So then you see people like in your little chat rooms be like, oh, on Vero, it's just this war on Twitter, it's a war. On Vero, it's home base. We don't let Zach see the war on Vero. We don't let Zach see the war that we go through on Twitter. So what? All right. So these people were two different people. Everybody was. Y'all listening to this shit now, y'all know it too. There are a lot of people that's two different people. Some people are on Twitter that's violent, extreme, bullies, and go on Vero and try to act like they're just fucking saints for Zach. Go on fucking Twitter and act like they're going to war all day, every day. Get suspended all day, every day. Gotta come up with burner accounts, fake accounts, fucking constant fakery, bitch assness on Twitter. And then you're like, damn, how do these people got that much time? So then, me as the person I am, oh, these dudes ain't shit. Let me go say something. So now I'm into these wars too. I know how to talk to people too, but I never got suspended. I never got my fucking page deleted. I don't have no fucking burners. That's me. But that's probably just who I am. I'm different than a lot of these people in the movement. And I know that, and I've been seeing that forever. But so now it's not chat room shit anymore. They go to war outside publicly on Twitter. So I'm still kind of new to these chat rooms and these people introducing me I don't know them, but they talk to me and they cool, you know, or at least I thought they was cool. And so I'm sitting there listening and I'm like, yo, I remember when I first started talking, I'm like, yo, this shit can go way better than what we're doing, y'all. Y'all don't talk to people like that. Y'all don't fucking get suspended like that. We can make this a big reputable company. And I remember Fiona said that too, but I if my memory serves correctly, I don't know, but I mentioned it to Fiona in one of those chat rooms, and she may come out and said it that, yo, we need it to be a business, yo, or something. We need it to be official. I said that like 2 years ago, and nobody wanted to do this shit. A few people did. I know Fiona wanted to, and I didn't know the exiles back then. I only knew Fiona, but nobody else wanted to do it. So I was like, whatever. But at the time, I'm still new with my podcast. My podcast is great. I'm getting likes from Zack Snyder. Zack used to like a lot of my shit. And people used to share it, whatever. My energy just boosts up. I really wasn't in those Twitter wars like that. But I was doing my shit different because I was trying to break this little podcast I'm doing. Go deep. I'm trying to blow this shit up. So I was fucking... When I get, you know how I did it back in the day when I got a like from Zack Snyder, I used to fucking highlight that shit. And I did it, and people started just coming around me just because I got a like from Zack Snyder. And I think a lot of these people who I thought was my friends was just coming around me to get seen or noticed by Zack Snyder. So, the movement keep fighting on Twitter. I'm throwing out all these ideas. I'm always getting shot down. You know, and I'm thinking my ideas be legit. Compared to fighting, my ideas are like super legit. You know, compared to fighting every fucking day. But why would we want to fight every day? Because we're in this fucking sandbox. And what's the sandbox? It's like quicksand. There's no progress because you're fighting all the fucking time. And all of the people who I'm talking about know y'all was doing that. Even as grown-ups, whatever. And I'll come out too and I'll say my shit. I'll talk my shit on my podcast. And I will put down a lot of shit. But the difference between me and this fighting, when I did it, it was to help our movement continue. And we always got stronger each time. People probably don't want to give me my credit or any credit for it, but I helped this movement get real fucking strong. And so I do take blame for being in some of these fights, and I do take blame for fucking I do take responsibility for wasting my time to fucking address some bullshit that I didn't have to fucking address. I do take responsibility for that shit. But check this out. I don't know what the fuck really was going on around. I didn't know what I was in at the time. I didn't know I was in the sandbox. Now we fighting for this movement, and all these content creators feel the need to fucking fight. Or not just fight, like, not physically fight, but Twitter beef or whatever. All these content creators come together because that was like the cool thing to do, was to protect or stick up for Zack Snyder. But like one of my homeboys said, yo, Zack Snyder is a millionaire. Y'all are not. He doesn't need your protection on that way like that. He needs support, and y'all can grow, and he'll watch you grow at the same time. But a lot of us are stuck in the sandbox and don't even know. We're stuck in the quicksand and don't even know. Now, we're growing. We're about 50%. We're at half strength right now. And then we, cause after I said that shit with Dave, the film junkie, and Garza, people started seeing there's this crew called We call them the 40 Club because they came out with $40 million. Everybody know, blah, blah, blah. So my homeboy, Will, who also did a lot for the movement. You know, Will is a part of a lot of campaigns, and which is good. And my homeboy, Will, no, rewind a little bit more. We're still talking about some shit. So the movement is like half strength. And Zack Snyder comes back on fucking Twitter. In the war zone, Zack Snyder shows back up and drops a shirt out of nowhere, which blew the whole movement up. He dropped a shirt design, which Mick D helped distribute. I think he headed it. I don't know. But Mick D helped, this campaign with the Zack Snyder All the Gods t-shirt. And it made like $80,000. So going if you're at half strength and you just get a vote like that on fucking Twitter, now the fucking, now the world is knowing, because a lot of these websites started picking up what's Zack Snyder's shirt talking about. You know, a lot of these people started talking about it, and people started saying, you know, the Christian people came out and started saying anti-Christian, the Jewish, you know, all kind of shit. People started talking again. Plus, it just made a $80,000 fucking campaign. Plus, they donated it all to fucking suicide prevention, the foundation. So that's a huge fucking vote. So now Zack Snyder feel everybody like, damn, Zack is back, you know. So now people are on Twitter, and now they're getting real amped. So the world, we now start hearing Zack Snyder is gonna do a movie called Army of the Dead. But also Zack Snyder started sharing more pictures of the Justice League. So people were like, just now their new interpretation of these pictures. And now we got to listen to their interpretation. Also, while we listen to their interpretation, now we don't like it and we fight them on Twitter, you know, and we fight to the deaths, and everybody get burners and fucking fake ass shit and screenshots and all this other bullshit they call receipts, and just a crazy fucking movement. A crazy movement, bro. Like, even when you making $80,000 a lick, we still got time to fucking be wildin', you know? And like I said, dog, people be like, well, yeah, you were wildin'. I never got my fucking account deleted. Never. You know? This shit crazy, but so now we're like 75% huge. We're big. But also while it's going on, we are damn, all right. So my bad, I had a little break, but let me speed this up. We're like 53 minutes of me talking shit. All right, so we dropped the shirt. Campaign did good. Now people start to see there's money in this shit. And people start I guess formulating ways to make money from this Snyder Cut movement. But also now not only formulating ways to make money, still in these chat rooms constantly beefing about bullshit, right? Still misinterpreting pretty much all the news that's coming out about the movement and about what's going on and about, you know, just we was wildin'. We were wildin'. But while we were wildin', we was growing, and it felt like this is like the cool thing to do. All right, the movement is now getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're still talking about the sandbox because now it's a movement. People are inserting their content. People are fucking, gathering everybody to do events. Everybody tweet here, everybody tweet this time, blah, 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 blah. And it was growing. It was becoming huge. Everything started going good for us. We had November. I'm fast forwarding to like November 17th and around that time. So a week before November 17th, we were just tweeting, constantly going trending. And it started building up where it was like the shit, So then November 17th come and we fucking, we go 1 million tweets. And I remember nobody thought we could do 1 million. Every day we was doing like 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 or whatever. But I remember Jeff Purdy was like, yo, we need to do 1 million. And nobody believed we could do the shit. And we were like, all right, whatever. We did that shit. But while we did it, we started noticing Twitter was out in front with these weird ass hashtags to try to trip us up. Twitter was out in front with these like fake hashtags to try to slow us down. Why would Twitter be involved in trying to slow us down? Why wouldn't Twitter be happy that we're bombarding its fucking website and getting its website so many views, clicks, or whatever? Why wouldn't Twitter be happy for us? Why are they trying to hurt us? All right, whatever. We don't even know really what's going on. So then we blow up even more. Subway starts talking about us and we're like, yo, can y'all do that for us? Pretty much. All right, we trended for Subway. They were like, yo, so now it looks like they got a nice partnership with the Release the Snyder Cut movement, right? But then, now we get into the shit. Chapter fucking 3, the shit. Dun, dun, dun. But now, the movement start breaking the fuck up. So now the movement, after our biggest day, the movement starts getting into like serious cliques and all these rumors and shit start coming around about how the leaders of the movement wasn't getting along with each other. But me looking at this shit, I'm friends with both sides of the leaders of this movement. Or at least I thought I was. Me looking at this shit, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to stay out of that. I'm not going to get involved in that shit. Because I got friends on both sides. So while every side used to try to hit me up and tell me what's going on, what I should be aware of, and bullshit. So while I'm listening for months. I'm listening for months while I'm trying to do this podcast and all this other shit. So then my podcast start changing because now I'm starting to try to feature people on the podcast to not subliminally talk to each other, but basically say, yo, X, Y, and Z, and my podcast wasn't me no more. It was just something. I still liked it. It's still great. But it wasn't me talking about what Zack Snyder is. It was other people talking about what Zack Snyder meant to them, which is cool. And I like I said, I still like it. But it wasn't me talking anymore. Because not only was we doing podcasts, I'm listening to beef nonstop of what happened and Bullshit. So I'm still like, yo, I'm staying out of that. And even today, 2020, I have said, yo, I'm staying out of that. But I've been in it also. And I've seen some shit, and I've heard some shit, and I've witnessed some shit. So the people right now I see trying to, I don't know whether you're trying to show me you're not my friend no more, whatever you're trying to show me. I have to tell you, dog. Yo, I have to tell. I'm gonna just tell it like it is. I'm gonna tell it like it is. I'm gonna tell it just the fuck like it is. So now I'm seeing this beef but we been noticed that every time something good happened in the movement, something bad happens like a few days later. We seen that pattern, and nothing tells the facts more than patterns. So after we blow the fuck up, the best days ever, we fighting again. To the fucking deaths now. We fighting again to the deaths. Where niggas talking about, oh, we gonna call the police. We gonna call the fucking feds. But nobody was telling the real story. So, looking back on this shit, bro, all y'all listening, this shit here could have easily been avoided. And I'm saying this now because I was talking to my homie Jeff today, and I was like, yo, every time, and we were talking about the anti-life equation, because that's what I think now, and in chapter 3 is the shit. We talking about the anti-life equation. The anti-life equation has run our movement, has not just infiltrated our movement. I think the anti-life equation has been in our movement since day one. I think the anti-life equation has created our sandbox. So once we got big and they wanted to silence a movie at the same time, all these people who checked in to release the Snyder Cut hashtag or websites, or petitions, all these people now are a new form of data. And what they've been doing or been talking about doing is, I guess, like reading that data with AI, right? Reading that data now can figure out all of our habits and patterns of who we are, what we do. It can listen to us on our phone. It can watch us. It can predict us, our movements, because how we text so much. Our fucking soul has been infiltrated through this phone, through how we text and interact with ads and different shit like that. Right? So what has been making us text and interact with this phone for the past 2 years nonstop? This fucking sandbox. This movement. And what have we put in the phone? We have put a lot of valuable information in this fucking movement, in this hashtags. And you bet your fucking last dollar it is being read. We have probably, but this is some technology, this is some system that was featured in Man of Steel, right? And we can talk about that. But no, we're gonna stick to the shit in the fucking 3rd chapter. So now So now all of us have poured in our life and soul into this phone for the past 2 years or 3 years, whatever. Why? Somebody socially engineered all of us together to put our blood, sweat, and tears in this shit. Right? Because what you have to read now is emotions. All of our emotions have been in this shit. Laughter, happiness, joy, doom, sadness, pain, tears, all of that shit. So this hashtag alone, this is some deep shit, dog. I'm telling y'all. This is some deep, 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 deep shit. This hashtag alone has digitally cloned about 1 million people with information. And y'all not even pretty much paying attention. Y'all didn't hear what the fuck I just said. All of us listening to this podcast right now have put enough information in the computer that can be read with 5G fucking AI bots to know exactly who you are, can predict your life better than you can. I'm gonna put a video in here now because I'm going, but I know y'all don't believe me until I put videos in here to help further what I'm saying. But this is it's gonna be a series, so this is gonna be a long ass talk because I gotta say it. People writing a book about it. We're gonna do documentary. This is gonna be a long ass talk from the belly of the beast. Everybody know me in the movement. So now we fighting to our death. Worried about hackers, worried about fucking spies, worried about fucking people taking screenshots of every conversation, worried about who don't like you, worried about fucking what somebody has said about you. Everything. This movement is falling. Everybody that's really listening knows it. This does not feel the same as before. This does not feel the same as before. People, what you have to pay attention to is who's driving the ship. You know? Who's driving the ship? When Fiona was driving, everybody felt a certain way. Right? Was it happy? Was it better? I think the mood felt better when Fiona was driving. Then recently, they released the Snyder Cut account on Twitter. I'm saying that was driving the ship. And that's just my opinion. How did the mood feel? We're better than ever. We were better than ever. That got dismantled by other people on the internet, right? Not a fist fight. Other people on the fucking internet. Do we know these people? Nope. Some of them you do. Some of them you feel close to. Some of them you listen to and you have, you're a friend of them. But do you know them? Have you ever shook hands? Some people have shaken hands, but whatever. Do you really know these people? Right? Because you're looking at it now like, damn, would they act? Does that look like somebody who I want to really hang with? But you put so much effort into somebody over the past 2 or 3 years. You put so much effort into a fucking movement only to see some of the people who you thought were cool wasn't that cool. But then that's gonna make you look like, why was these people stirring shit up in different areas like that for the past 2 years of my life? Why was that person stirring shit up? That should bring you to the point where you start questioning some shit. The other day, I saw Royer Wakefield put on the fucking Twitter. He was like, yo, this could be like this. Agitators pose into movements and act like they're your friends and act like they're your homies. I'm just paraphrasing it, of course. And they basically socially influence you to disrupt your life. Was that not going, if you remember chapter 3 being in the or whatever, the previous chapter being in the sandbox, have you been getting enough attention in the real world, or are you on Twitter and your phone fighting this battle, or in these chat rooms talking shit about people that you don't know anything about all day? What have you been doing? Have you been wasting your time? Have you been you're glued in, right? What are you glued in for? Do you want to see this movie? Is it really about the hashtag release the Snyder cut? Or are you trying to make your wave bigger in front of Zack Snyder for more Zack Crack? Is that what's going on? And I talk to, this is why I've been quiet on this situation for so long, because the people involved in this situation are close to Zack, right? The people involved in the conversations that need to be had are close to Zack. Fuck it, they are close to Zack. So if they don't like you, they could probably try to influence if Zack likes you or not also. I mean, it could happen. I mean, it is what it is. So that was one of my reasons to stay out of it. And when I was talking to Jeff, he was like, yo, that's like a fear. That's more anti-life equation shit. That's you being scared of what these people could say to Zack Snyder about you. And I was like, yo, that's that's some true shit. That's the truth. And you shouldn't be fearful, because like I said, if this was some edgy shit, I stepped up to the edgy shit because I thought that was affecting our movement. If this was some 40 Club shit, I stepped up to the 40 Club shit because I thought that was affecting our movement. But now something is really affecting our movement, and I wasn't standing up to that shit. And that, that's some fear and that's some bitch assness. And that's 100% not what I'm about. So now here we are. The movement feels like after the biggest high we had, November, it's only fucking March, not that long ago. The movement feels like it's fucking gonna be trending down soon, Like nobody can come up with unity. Everybody's questioning everything. Everybody's questioning everybody. Everybody's trying to play these little gangs and act like, yeah, my gang is better than your gang, and my gang knows something that your gang doesn't know, and we're just cooler because we know this and you don't know it because your gang isn't as cool as us. That's what the fuck this movement is now. How did the fuck this happen? I know why. A bunch of fucking egos. A bunch of fucking egotistical ass dudes who can't see that, damn, I've been fucking up, so I'm gonna blame everybody else because I can't look at myself and be like, damn, I've been fucking up. And Zack Snyder, if you're listening, I hope you fucking know what the hell I'm talking about. This is some bullshit right now, y'all. Like, Zack Snyder, we were trying to trend the other day for your birthday. I haven't seen the numbers, but I don't think we did it. Does anybody want to talk about that? Like, why? Because we too busy fucking dealing with our wounds as we have fought to our death and see who is our friends and who really ain't our friends. And now you don't want to ride with somebody because you find out they ain't really that cool. So that's what the movement is, and this is me speaking about that shit. I don't give a damn who likes it. Everybody knows about this shit. Everybody that's close to it knows, and this will be some more continuation. But it is what it is. So why did this happen is what we're trying to figure out right now, and we're getting close. And this shit, this is just part one of this story. On this shit, we will get to what's really going on, because there's some deep shit going on. This rabbit hole is deep as a motherfucker. As I said before, there's some technology that's been stopped or been hushed, been pushed black, and when that usually happens, they take it out of all of the movies as well. And that was probably in something with Zack Snyder, what he was doing with this saying about this 5G shit. And if you look also, a lot of people when 5G came on in China, a lot of people got sick. And that was that showed, I think AT&T got pissed after that. I think some people got fired after that. I don't know if you could find it. I know somebody in the comment section will find it. But so we're talking about some deep shit, and we're talking about why these people was rallying us and fucking making us have every emotion on the internet for the past 2 years. Why these shit was going on. And if you look at what I think all of this connected to, I would say all of this is connected to, let's first say Nexium, what is that? Human trafficking. What were they doing on the human trafficking shit? Remember, Allison Mack got caught, and she pretty much told on everybody. But is there some Allison Mack fans, or if there's some Allison Mack people in this movement that knows about what's going on? I'm sure there's some on Vero. I'm sure. Who I was just hanging out with, not knowing who was who. Talking to. You know, are there some people who knows what went down in Nexium? I'm sure there's some on Vera. I'm sure there's some in this movement. What I'm trying to say is not to take away nothing from Vera. I think it's a good site. It's a very good application. But what I'm trying to say is I'm sure there's some close to us. You know, I'm sure there's some close to us. So then when you look at this Nexium shit, and that's tied into this Epstein shit, and when you look at the Epstein shit, you look at the what they were actually doing, they were fucking investing in energy companies and shit. Not only that, they were fucking seeing what happens to the brain after you get through a traumatic event. That's what they were invested in. So what happened in this movement? A bunch of ups and downs, a bunch of traumatic events. What did we do? We spilled our guts on the fucking computer about these traumatic events. If somebody's willing to go fucking kidnap a fucking kid to get this amount of information out of your brain, don't you think also they will be able to create a movement to get this amount of information out of your brain? If all you have to do is give it. That's what Facebook is about. That's what all of this shit is about. Testing the fucking human brain to see how it reacts in certain situations. So if you got the fucking biggest intellectual property, Superman, and you take that away from people after you give it to them, there's gonna be a reaction. And it's always has. People say there's a curse of Superman. But it's been done before, and there's always a reaction. And that reaction now is being graded by fucking computers that's 10 million times as smart as us. Is this fucking rabbit hole that fucking deep? When it's connected to the fucking Nexium shit, was probably connected to the Epstein shit. Epstein lived in New York, investing in energy companies. Not only that, man, this shit is just deep. But then you go past that and you see these energy companies are creating fucking energy weapons. And you look back at Christopher Nolan on Batman Begins, they had an energy weapon. And these energy weapons are you're also connected with your phone while it's milking the fucking soul out of your head with all the shit you pour into it. Is also gonna now be able to fucking give you something that you wanted with this 5G shit. Give you something that can control your whole body. Maybe now there's somebody also socially engineering from the top down, all the way to the smallest people, trying to rouse you up to fight people in our movement every day, which is also socially engineering you to do something. What the fuck is really this movement is about? What the fuck is going on? Part 1. Keep going. I'm gonna have part 2 and part 3 soon. Let's get into some other shit because I've been talking for a long time. Yeah, bitch.
Okay, thank you. This is getting cold, excuse me. I'm a bit like an old vintage car. I'll keep going as long as I'm oiled. I'd just like to say a couple of things before I start, please. There are people who don't like talking in front of other people. If you have any questions or you wish to see any research that I have used, there is nothing to stop you. I'm in the Liverton phone book, Newton Abbott. There's nothing to stop you, and I know some people here, and they have been out to my house. Nothing to stop you ringing me up saying, hey Barry, can I pop out for a cup of coffee, look at this, discuss this, and there's no problem with that. It goes on all the time. I've had 5 people this week. There's no problem at all with that. Anything I say, I have documentary evidence for. I can't bring it all here. I've used 1,700 papers to compile this and my last talk. But you're welcome to come and look at them and criticize them and say, can I have a copy of this, and take it away for whatever you want to take it away for. But I don't say a single word unless I have documentary evidence. Now, my aim is not to upset anybody, but some of the things I say, can. Between 1949 and 1962, everything we needed to know about microwaves was known and published. By 1962, all of the dangers, all of the hazards, everything was known. And when I say all of them, between the superpowers and us, the brain at that time had been studied for brain waves, and microwaves could be used to penetrate the brain and cause behavioral changes. And by 1962, with the resonance frequencies of the organs and the brain, the cyclotronic resonance frequencies, circadian resonance frequencies, A statement was made in 1962 by the governments that birth defects, all birth defects, organs, whole organisms, all cells, brain function, all emotions, all moods could be altered, changed, and destroyed by 1962. Microwaves then, as now, were used as stealth weapons before they became cell phones. In 1965, the use of cell phones by the military was used. I had them. By 1965, the prospect of cell phones and everything from cell phones was seen as a really, really lucrative market for the general public. And knowing the dangers that cell phones could cause, the military are exempt. You do not have, in the military, when you sign, any danger that comes your way for using whatever, that's it. You don't have any recourse for that. But the general populations do. And the military and the industry of several countries, the United States, Canada, us, some of the NATO countries, Australia and New Zealand, the people got together and they knew that cell phones and all the other gadgets you have today, they knew they would not be allowed under the current safety limits. And we needed a safety limit that could never be taken to court and never challenged if these things were to progress. And in 1965, they adopted an old 1953 thermal level by an engineer by the name of Schwann. And in order to prevent being taken to court, the industries and the people who make the decisions, they adopted the Schwann 1953 level, which basically says if a certain weight of your tissue, either 10 grams or a kilogram, depending which way you are going, does not heat up by a certain temperature in 6 minutes, then everything will be deemed safe for a lifetime's exposure for adults, women, children, pregnant women, everybody. And the 6-minute thermal level is the one that is still used today. They totally ignored and put aside the electric and magnetic vectors of the wave and the harm that the electric and magnetic vectors can do. Oh, it's my stick, it's all right. Sorry. Thank you very much, thanks. They put aside all of the harm from the electric and magnetic vectors, so I don't knock it over again. Now, they interfere with the electrical conductivity of the cells, the electrical conductivity of the neurons, the electrical conductivity of the brain. They interfere with the resonant frequency of the circadian resonant cells, the cyclotronic ions. In fact, they interfere with everything. So all of those were brushed aside, and we stuck with the 6-minute thermal limit. Sometimes they extend it to 30 minutes, but basically it is a 6-minute, and that is what is in force today in 42% of the planet of what we are in that part today. So you have really no protection against the electric and magnetic vectors. And as I say, that is in force today. That comes from the International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, who advise what was the government scientists, now Public Health England, who advise government, who advise councils, and it comes all the way down, and it is still in force today. I will be coming on to 5G later. 5G is not new. 5G was causing a nuisance in 1972. The only thing new about 5G is its name, fifth generation. That's it. That is the only thing new. It is well documented. There are many research papers on it. And finally, in 1971, cancer was proven to be caused by low-level microwave radiation and has been kept secret ever since, along with all of the other illnesses and diseases. In the early 70s, this document was published. It was by the American military. It is top secret, classified top secret. And it lists 2,000 research papers, 2,000, and each of those took many, many years to construct. 2,000 research papers, because in those days the military did the research with the universities. And it covers all of the illnesses which you can expect to get and die from continuous low-level radiation. This, I think, is the most shameful document ever to be published. It is by the World Health Organization. We pay them to protect us, and we trust them to protect us. In 1973, the World Health Organization had a conference in Warsaw, Biological Effects and Health Hazards of Microwave Radiation, Below Thermal Radiation, which is what you have on your cell phones. 350 pages documenting harm to the ordinary person. 107 different chapters. Chapter 40 deals with cancer. I think 28 reproductive faults. But instead of telling the world, I don't know who made them make the decision, instead of telling the world, it was stamped top secret with a big red top secret stamp. It still is. And you still will not be told about this. They will not admit to it, even today. The second most shameful document, I think, is this one. This was published between 1972 and 1976. The final part was 1976. It is from the US Defense Intelligence Agency. And the document says, if the more advanced nations of the West, which is us, are strict in the enforcement of exposure standards, there could be unfavorable effects on industrial output. Industrial output is profit, and military function. In other words, what they wanted us to do was set a level of radiation for the NATO countries, set a level of radiation that would not be strict. Hence, we came in with the 6-minute thermal level that is still in place today and what councils are advised to adhere to. At that time, the World Health Organization, again, what they didn't tell you, on their website, or on their, what they had on these days, 80% of the published papers linked cancer to low-level microwaves. And the others, you had neurological damage, birth defects. There was no secret among the decision makers then. And every so often, generally when a new G comes out, a new one of the new makes of the cell phone, the International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, they put out an addendum to their original report, which clears the way for whichever generation it is coming out. There's a new one coming out in a couple of days to clear the way for 5G. This is the original, or a copy of the original International Commission document, and it is of interest to decision makers, all decision makers, excuse me, because I think I'm not legally trained and I cannot understand people when they talk to me who are legally trained. But I will give you my interpretation of this. And this is for council decision makers and all other decision makers. They actually say in this that their recommendations are guidelines. They are not law. You do not have to adhere to them. They are guidelines. They say they only consider involving the heating of tissue. They go on to say, for example, children, the elderly, and some chronically ill people may have a lower tolerance for one or more forms of these microwaves than the rest of your population. They will be deemed sensitive. And then they say, on page 547 of this one, in practice, the critical steps in applying these general procedures may differ across the spectrum. Several steps in these procedures require scientific judgment. For example, on reviewing the scientific literature and determining an appropriate reduction factor. In other words, in my simple brain, if you are told that something is dangerous, as a decision maker, you have the authority to say, this says this level will cause this. I am instructed to reduce the level to a point that is deemed safe. You do not have somebody walk into your school or somewhere and say, sign here, Gov, these are radio waves. We've had radio for 100 years, no problems. And then, zonk, there's a transmitter, and you come back a week later, and like Lego, some other people have gone dong, 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 and you've just a mass of things that you don't understand, and nobody will tell you what they are anyway. Now, I brought a couple of books along, not because I get any money if they're sold or anything like that, but along with the whistleblowers, of which I am one, I have known for many, 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 many years a captain who is an electronics warfare specialist captain. He worked with the Canadian military government and CIA, and he published a book. And in this book, and I can give you the title, and he's updated it. This is the original. He's updated it for 5G. And in it, whereas Snowden, the whistleblower a few years ago, put everything on the internet, he has put all of the top secret papers into a book, given the websites where you can download them if you are a decision maker and you want proof of something. He includes our government, the International Commission, and he's put them all in a book under different categories, everything to do with cell phones, Wi-Fi, 5G, government, and all that. But the reason I want to quote this one is because he has quoted that before this bubble bursts, with children and everybody running around with everything stuck to the sides of their heads, it is expected and anticipated there will be 2 billion deaths. Now, I questioned that in my own mind, and I thought, that's a lot. And in my simple Janet and John brain, I couldn't work out what 2 billion deaths actually means. But it is, if you imagine everybody who died in World War II, it is 28 times that number. And that's a lot. But when I started looking into this, I thought, well, I remember when I was teaching, and I remember the time in the early 80s when I said to my science class, and I said, we have just passed the 100,000 deaths a year rate in this country for smoking-related deaths. And then you start looking around the world for smoking. Smoking was linked to, they didn't know the name then, but they knew that you had less lung congestion and died with big black ugly bits. In 1870, smoking was linked to cancer and death in 1870. In 1939, all of the science was in place to have it stopped. Then the government scientists and industry scientists, who are sometimes one of the same person, step in and they delay things for 50, 60 years, which is what happened to smoking. Exactly the same with lead in petrol, and there are many other examples. So when I looked at this and I thought, well, smoking is probably comparable to 2 billion by now. Lead in petrol certainly will be. And I looked around a few figures, and a 10-year international study around the world in various countries had many, many thousands of miscarriages, suicides, deaths around transmitters. Lima, near Peru, the country, is known as Cancer City, where it is unregulated. Just 2 provinces in India, they have 50,000 brain tumors in children and 100,000 plus dead in the provinces attributed to mobile phone masts. And so it goes on. And when you start looking at examples like this, in a paper I wrote, and anyone can come out to my house and read it and copy it. In a paper I wrote, there was a survey done, I'm trying to think, probably 15 years ago, of some of the schools in France and Spain, and they found 200 schools with cancer clusters of 8 or more different types of cancers attributed to the transmitter in the playground. We had I was involved in 11 children under 11 with leukemia after a transmitter went up. They all died. It was taken to Parliament. The MP put forward a very, very good case. It took 18 months to get to Parliament. And the minister stood up and said, we are within international guidelines, and sat down. And that was it. In fact, the minister lied. We're not within international guidelines. There are, and I'm not going to dwell on these, but I just, for the decision makers, I will just run through a couple of these. There are already deaths. Go on, Barry, sort yourself out, man. What's the matter with you? There are already deaths from Wi-Fi in class, from here to New Zealand. There are 136 studies of harm in schools, proper studies, from Wi-Fi and transmitters in schools. There are 48 studies on child suicide. It's going up around 4% every year. I'll just stop there for a second. It is the pulses or modulations from the frequencies. Professor Mio, King Sard University, he has shown, especially in a child's brain where the tissue is particularly soft, the skull, he has shown that the microwaves penetrate deep into all areas of a child's brain. And a scientist, Penifael, P-E-N-I-F-A-E-L, in 1997, he listed a list of 1 to 600 pulse frequencies that could cause neurological and physiological damage in the body. In the paper I had there from the military, they list all of the symptoms that you can be warned about if you are taken to court, and the last one is severe neurological damage, including death. So, suicide is one of the 5 most commonest from microwaves going into the brain, and I'm not a neurosurgeon, I just know from experience, the 5 most commonest in order are the same symptoms that you would receive from morphine or marijuana: hunger, excessive hunger, aggression, and if the pulse frequency is a certain frequency, which I won't say on camera, the aggression manifests itself as aggressive, suicidal sexual aggression. So you can get aggressive from the microwaves, and the particular pulse frequency will manifest itself as sexual aggression, particularly from men. And the last one is, I'm not a medical doctor, I describe it as the same symptoms as lead arsenide poisoning, where you just want to go to bed and die, and if somebody came in with a bag and said, there's £1 million, go and spend it, you wouldn't be bothered. Those are the most commonest symptoms that you get from microwaves in the brain at varying degrees. And any neurologists here, I can run through the processes if you wish. Right, okay, here we go. Pregnant women are particularly vulnerable because the womb, of course, is mostly fluid, and microwaves are attracted and stay in and rearrange the chemical structures of the fluid in many ways. There is a 20-fold higher concentration of damage within the womb. A pediatrician with a neurologist, a medical neurologist, went into a school. I don't know the size of the school, but he found 31 children with physical damage and neurological damage related to the transmitter. The World Health Organization published a paper that showed that a level of microwave irradiation for a pregnant woman can reach 47.7% as a miscarriage, stillbirth, or genetically damaged child rate. 47.7%. A paper published a few years ago, just a couple of years ago, by the European Academy for Environmental Medicine, who are an incredibly talented bunch of doctors and clever people. They looked at their own research and came up with 48%. For school children, and I have taught pregnant school children and I've worked with pregnant teachers, for school children you can add a risk factor of between 10 and 20% more. I don't know exactly, and I don't know anybody who does, due to the increased electrical conductivity in their bodies, the absence of a full working immune system that isn't really up and running till they're 18 or so, the absence of the hardness of the bones and the easiness of the microwaves to penetrate the bones, which are not really fully developed till they're around 27, the last being the clavicle. And of course in the bones you have the bone marrow, which helps with the immune system. So children are particularly vulnerable, between 40% and 60% vulnerable. When I'm talking to governments or royalty or people like that abroad, the one question I say to them is, if you do nothing, and a lot of them are, this isn't all bad news, 58% of the world are doing a lot. We're not, but 58% of the world are. And my aim is to get us doing something. When I say to them, if you do nothing, just look at let's take an average of 50%. The mathematics is relatively simple. It's like a decay curve, a nuclear decay curve. In one generation of exposed children, let's say 20 years, a half of your newborns are going to have some sort of defect if they are alive. Another 20 years, you're down to a quarter. Another 20 years, you are down to an eighth. So in 60 years, I say to them, and this isn't my work, this is the work of proper, real professionals doing this job. In 60 years, only 1 in 8 of your children can be born or expected to be born healthy. How are you going to run your infrastructure? How are you going to run your health service? Who's going to pay for it? Where are the taxes coming from? Who's going to man the factories? Where are they coming from? The only answer to this is mass immigration. That is the only answer if you wish to survive as a country. And I'm coming on to trees and animals later. I'm coming on to trees and animals later. But it's worth mentioning here while I think about it. The scientists will know this, but we all have the same 4 chemical bases in our DNA. Any tree can read your DNA sequence. The nucleotides won't do it any good because it doesn't interest a tree, because a tree doesn't do what we do. But any tree can read your DNA sequence. And anything that damages our DNA, and if there are any professionals here who would like to know the sequence through the cell, I'll happily give it to you. Anything that will damage our DNA will damage all other living species' DNA, all of them, plants and animals. And the figures are showing this. And as far as I know, there are only 3 living things on the planet that seem impervious to microwaves. There are, as I said, 48 papers on childhood suicide, which manifests itself quite a lot with cell phones. There are as many papers on breast cancer, and I can't go into the breast cancer now, it is a mammoth topic, but I can do questions. I have a picture here which I won't show, but you're welcome to come and have a look if you wish, of a lady who tucked the cell phone into her bra. But breast cancer is a phenomenally high rate among people who carry cell phones in their handbags or have the metal stays in the bra. And finally, on this little section, a surgeon from Plymouth, a brain surgeon, questioned why the amount of brain tumours he was seeing did not match the amount he was doing, the operations he was carrying out. I need my glasses. And the answer, if I can find it, here we are. The brain surgeon challenged the statistics. And we looked into this. I had a letter from him and I wrote to him. And I sent him a copy of this. And our statistical office of statistics, whatever it is, they take, or they did then, and it's, as far as I know, it's still going, they are taking 40,000 brain tumours off these statistics every single year. 40,000. And it is justified. What they are saying is, aha, the endocrine glands in the brain are not actually grey or white matter. We associate the brain with grey or white matter. Therefore, they're not really brain. Therefore, the tumours of the endocrine glands are not brain, so we can take those. So we take off the 40,000 endocrine cancers a year. And this is how it goes on, and this is how you get your figures down. But I did say to the doctor, surgeon, you work for the NHS. If you try and raise this, I have known 2 area health authority, whatever the chief person is called, the chief of the area health authority, I have known one be threatened that she would lose her job in 1/2 of one day if she brought this to anybody's attention, and the other one that the best thing he could do was keep quiet and stick to other things. Now, we put Wi-Fi in schools. we put Wi-Fi in schools. You can go into virtually any state primary school and they will have 20 Wi-Fis in the class, plus the routers on the ceiling, plus a transmitter, and there will probably be iPads as well. And they are all microwaves. What you are not told, and if you are a school governor or a decision maker, what you are not told when you put these in front of our 5-year-olds or even 4-year-olds these days, what you are not told is that the Wi-Fi in your classroom or your children's or grandchildren's classroom or their bedroom, the Wi-Fi is in the same category for danger. The World Health Organization, International Agency for Research on Cancer. They are in the same category, exactly the same, as mercury, lead, DDT, benzene, which is the smell from petrol you get, exhaust fumes from cars, HIV type 2, and chloroform. The same. Now, if I walked into anybody's school with any of those and said, here you are, play with this for a day, I would be jailed, certified, sectioned, and jailed. And yet, we've got children with these on their laps, I think somebody worked out for 13 hours over a school lifetime or something. But the good news, the International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, they have been a very, very tightly guarded body, secretive. You can't join them, you have to be invited to join them. They don't answer to anybody, they are not elected. And they have been a very, very close community. But just Saturday, they are based in Germany. On Saturday, we have a defector. And with 5G coming, he is not prepared to do what they are doing or be a member of their gang anymore. And this arrived from Germany on Saturday for me, and he has said, and he has gone public, there are now 2 large, well-executed and solid studies that point in the same direction. Cancer from exposure from all of these technologies. The data in the large study which found clear correlation between exposure to mobile radiation and cancer rates shows even greater cancer risks than revealed in the first report. Therefore, World Health Organization hazard class 1 instead of today's class 2, which is the one I've just read. It is an airtight argumented conclusion which supports an overwhelming amount of research. He is asking the world to upgrade the cancer certification from grade 2, which is mercury and lead and benzene, up to grade 1. He said the research substantiates that. Now, I'm going to finish off for 10 minutes, then we stop for a break. I'm going to just finish off with a few bits on Wi-Fi, because I think this is important, because these are our children and grandchildren. Here we go. Right. I'm just going to run over a few things. I am not alone in running around the world trying to do this. There are a lot of people doing lots of things, and we'll have some good news here. The industry themselves. Come on, Barry, sort yourself out. The industry themselves in the year 2000 studied the top 220 research articles and said that what they are putting out actually does cause cancer. The Council of Europe, 47 countries, 800 million people. Simple statement: ban Wi-Fi in schools. Dr. Annie Sasko, 22 years World Health Organization Cancer Department. Mobiles, cell phones and Wi-Fi will cause cancer. Switzerland, France, Germany, Belgium, England, this is not the state schools, England have started to remove Wi-Fi from schools. UNICEF, the big children's charity who care for children, decided to look into this, and they did their own study, nobody interfered, and they came up with their own conclusion. They found there was an 85% risk of brain and heart damage. And in fact, in Canada, I think it is, in the schools, they've had heart attacks from children from Wi-Fi, and now the classrooms have defibrillators in. 85% brain and heart damage, 36% epilepsy, 11% neurological harm, 82% blood, immune and fetal damage. Iceland, Cyprus, Italy, Canada, Russia, USA are either removing or starting to remove Wi-Fi from schools. Okay. Finally on this, just two things. I think this lady, internationally, she is renowned for being particularly clever. And I'd like to read just what she wrote here. She is a pediatric neurologist, Dr. Maya Klein, and she has said, pregnant women deserve to know that wireless radiation can have an impact on the developing brain. We're seeing alarming increases in the number of children diagnosed with neurological disorders over the past decade. And finally here, I've got an article here. I won't take it out and show it to you. It's a very large article published in a science journal, and because he was so worried, and with no disrespect to some of the people here, and I know some of the people here because I know them, are recognized nationally and internationally for their knowledge. With no disrespect to the people here, Professor Yuri Gregoriev, who is chair of the Russian Federation for Nuclear and Atomic Sciences, and probably the most knowledgeable person on the planet concerning microwaves and harm, he came over here for one specific purpose. He wanted this article published, which it was, and he gave a lecture, and he wanted to warn our government, do not put microwaves in schools. Do not put Wi-Fi in schools. Wi-Fi will have severe neurological damage and physical damage to our children. He came all the way over here just to say that and to warn us. And anyone wants to see the article, you can come around my house and read it and photograph it. Okay, I'm going on to trees and 5G after this. Is this a good time? Would you want to stop now? I've done an hour. Yeah, we'll stop now, and then we'll stop for a quick break, and then I'll do trees, 5G, which is all I've got left. They won't take long, and then we'll have all the questions. Before I start with trees and 5G and animals, I just want to mention these books. As I say, here's a whistleblower, but this one, the updated one, you can now get off Amazon. So if you ring up Amazon or do whatever you do on a computer, I don't have one, it'll probably be there next day. And this one you have to send to Canada for. But I brought this one specifically because there is a chapter here for decision makers, counsellors, decision makers. I just want to read this bit here. And everything in here, you have the websites and everything you need to get it. This is for decision makers from 2015. And it says, school districts, boards, medical health officers now know Lloyd's of London will not provide liability coverage for injuries, directly or indirectly, arising out of, resulting from, or contributed to by electromagnetic fields, electromagnetic radiation, radio waves, noise. This applies to Wi-Fi and all wireless devices in schools. And I believe, I don't know that I'm correct, but I believe Lloyd's insure other insurance companies. And if I were a decision maker, one thing I would ask for in writing, because apart from the harm, which my brain can't even contemplate, apart from the harm, if you are taken to court over the death or an injury of a child, and you have no insurance cover, and I have had parents and people come to me and say, what do I do about injury? And I say, well, there will be insurance, or there will not be insurance, depending on. Ask your school people or your council or whoever for the specific sentence in their policy that says we will cover your child, whatever, from electromagnetic illness. There should be a specific sentence there that says that. If there is not, then I don't know the law, but if as a decision maker you are taken to court, I have spent a whole day in court being cross-examined by an incredibly ambitious, tenacious barrister. And I was defending a girl who did not want to have an unhealthy child and wanted Wi-Fi taken out of school. And I thought after that, Andrew Goldsworthy, who works with ESUK as an advisor, he was the medical expert. And I thought, I'm glad I was on my side because I can stand my ground. And I thought, if I were a decision maker against such a barrister, I would be taken to pieces with the information that is there. And I think it's something that decision makers just need to bear in mind. Trees, right. I'm quoting this from the magazine ESUK, which I think there's some copies over there, but it's quarterly or 4 times a year, and they do cover lots of legal aspects, and they have their doctors, scientific advisors, and it is well worth getting, and it's not expensive. But in ESUK, there is an article here on trees subjected to low-level microwave irradiation, 29 pages, the red oak, cherry, willow, black poplar, and all trees suffer the same. They all start losing their immune system once you bombard them with communications microwaves. Trees are designed to pick up radiation. They are not designed to pick up microwaves. They do not like microwaves. Even children in school do experiments with watercress near cell phones or with microwave water. It's patently obvious that any tree does not like microwaves. And the moment you start microwaving a tree, 2 things happen. First is the tree starts to lose its immune system. And secondly, I did say there were 3 species on Earth that I know of that are impervious to microwaves. One of them is bacteria, microorganisms. They seem to thrive under the energy from microwaves. I don't know why. I have had it explained to me by a professor, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. But 2 things happen with trees. First, the bacterium start to thrive and invade the tree. And secondly, the tree starts to lose its immune system, and it's only a matter of time. Here, where 5G is going up, all around the world, where 5G is going up, trees are coming down. The reason is trees inhibit the progress of 5G. 5G is not a big around circular wave that you get from transmitters. 5G is a beam, sort of a cross between a torch and a laser. It is a beam, and that beam has trouble going through a tree trunk or the density of leaves, especially if they're wet, and especially along roads. I have had calls from all over the world saying, Barry, why are they cutting our trees down? And I say, is 5G going up? Yes, there is your answer. In Malta, the lady that rang me said they're cutting the trees down and the reason is that motorists can see better. In the USA, when they're just not giving an explanation, they're just cutting them down. Sydney is the only place I know, Sydney, Australia, where they're telling the truth, and the application into the government is the submission to the government 5G inquiry. Sacrifice trees for network performance and overwhelming numbers of small cells. In Australia, they've just said, if you want 5G, we cut the trees down. Simple as that. Here, our local paper, or my local paper, out at Bobby Tracy, the advertiser here, we are culling. Now, the reason given to us, we are culling in the Teenbridge area, that I come under Teenbridge, 90,000 trees to stop the prevention of dieback. I don't know what dieback is, I'm not a tree expert, but we are cutting down 90,000 trees, and we are also cutting down, it is 440,000 trees along the road so that they do not pose a danger to motorists. Now, I wrote a letter to the newspaper along with a lot of other people. Mine is here. And I've said, is it a coincidence that we have to cut down 440,000 trees, suddenly posing a danger, at the exact location that 5G needs to go up on the lampposts? 5G has to go up about every 150 meters. Magazines, I'm not the only one with research. There is an article here that birds, bees, insects, trees, the migration of animals, colony collapse, a big study on aspen trees. There are 20 studies here, proper university studies on all of these. And it is the same thing, really. All of those, you suppress the immune system, and for the animals, the navigating animals, the ones that use the sun or the Earth's magnetic field, even the creepy crawlies that go along the ground, they use navigation from the Earth and from the sun. But for the scientists here, I'm talking about the cryptochrome pigment double electron absorption system that has been published in Nature for robins. We know the other birds have it, the other animals have it. Animals lose their immune system, all animals, and those that use the sun or the Earth's magnetic field, they become disorientated. Migrating birds get lost, butterflies get lost, and you have quite a lot of harm, particularly on insects. Insects, they have a large surface area to body volume, and their surface area absorbs more radiation than the body can hold. It's known that one of the 5G frequencies, when it was tested on a bee, just absolutely saturated the bee. The bee lost its immune system and the whole thing turned to pus inside. Now, I'm going to mention just a couple of studies here. 2 studies costing 30 million euros over a good 10, 12 years found an increased cancer tumours in animals exposed to phone mast radiation. Okay. Animals facing extinction have been reported. Animals facing extinction have been reported here in India, Netherlands, Japan. Up to 40% of hives lost. Insect extinction in Germany from study by entomologists. And so it goes on. Nobody is immune from this. Okay. I have given the Glastonbury Festival, I have given 2 of the Glastonbury Festival environmental lectures. you're welcome to come round and get them if you wish. But one of them has over 8,000 research articles on animals and a 20-page laboratory study citing the suppression of the immune system from ordinary low-level microwaves on cows, cats, dogs, hamsters, whales, birds, bees, bats, butterflies. Over 8,000 studies there. The second one I gave, the first one was predominantly bees. The second one was animals from all species. I quoted 14 properly, independently peer-reviewed university studies saying the same. And this isn't a UK problem. There's a lovely gentleman here sends me a picture of his hives every year. He is a priest. Living up in the mountains, the Rockies in the Colorado mountains, and he sends me a little letter every January with all of his hives. And to show this isn't just an English or UK problem, they are fighting a battle. The beekeepers are fighting a battle, and every year he tells me what he's doing. They're putting special protective coating on, or doing this or doing that, or moving them. But he sends me a note saying what he's doing to try to protect his bees, along with all of the other United States beekeepers. Now, I want to come finally on animals to a study here. Right, I know where I am. This is probably the biggest and most comprehensive and legal study. This is a 15-year study, hundreds of papers, a 15-year study, Mount Nardi and Mount Matheson World Heritage Site in Australia. World Heritage Site in Australia. The study was for, and this is a legal study, for the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. And the conclusion over Mount Nardi, Mount Matheson, they only had 105 transmitters, which isn't that many, over 15 years. And I've never seen anything described like this before. They said, over the last 15 years, this affects not only the top of the life chain species, but they are devastating the fabric of the community of the world heritage, causing genetic deterioration in an insidious, massive, and ever escalating scale. To truly understand what these studies reveal is to stare into the abyss. And I've never seen the word abyss in a scientific paper. And I thought I'll just look it up in my Oxford dictionary to get the proper meaning, because this is coming here with our nature. This is coming here. And under my Oxford dictionary, under abyss, it is an abyss of despair, a catastrophe, primal chaos, hell, and a bottomless chasm. Now, you can choose any of those, but it doesn't look good. Now, I summarized the whole of the document, and I've summarized the document down here, but these are groups of species. These are not species. Some of these are 66 and 86 species. And when you run down this whole list of species, the common words appear. They either migrate and they won't come back, they exhibit unnatural behavior, and then you have gone, retreated to another area, rarely heard, gone, moved to the valleys, and we're going right down with birds, butterflies, wasps, ants, termites, bees, frogs, you name it, they're all there. And those that haven't gone, so the ants have become aggressive, but the moths, butterflies, ants, bees, flies, they are down around 80%. And some of the other creatures here, like the grey thrush, they list as rare, and there are several rares. But the problem is not whether they're rare, but whether you have enough species left to regenerate. And this is before the 5G satellites start coming overhead and beaming down on them. All of what I'm doing now is 5G. And I have an important quote here because I think it can be useful from Bug Life. And I want to tie it in because there may be a solution to this. And this is published in 2018. However, the charity Bug Life warns that despite good evidence of the harms, there was little research ongoing to assess the impact or apply pollution limits. That is not true, actually. I've quoted nearly 40,000 research papers. ESUK magazine publishes animal studies every time it comes out. There is generally one a day, but I'm not criticizing Bug Life because I think one of the answers to this, and I thought about that sort of only yesterday, I thought, how can we sort of solve this here? I have no authority and no status. And whoever I try and reach will never reply to my letters, and I can't get through to them. But charities like Bug Life and the charities that control birds and the charities that look after the woodlands, they have, I don't know what you call them, but people who control, what's the word I'm looking for? The people who, like Prince Harry and all those. Patrons, that's it, thank you. They have patrons. And if, and this will be going out, if the people who have animal charities and tree charities, if they go to their patron and they can ask their patron for me to come to them, I don't care where I go, my own expense, if I can go to the patron just for an hour, the patron, although the patron may not be able to do anything, the patron may be able to meet somebody at a social event that I would never even be let in the gate to, but would meet somebody at a social event and say, hey, we've got this bloke here, you really want to talk to him, and we may be able to get a decision made. That is the only way I think we can actually get a handle on this, because the industry is immensely powerful. They stand aside for nobody. They have the money. They have tens of trillions of dollars. They can buy anybody. They can buy the scientific results they want. And finally, the last thing on trees that I think is immensely important, Because the moment these went up, we started to lose our trees, and I haven't seen the research, but I bet if anybody starts looking, you will see that tree diseases are slowly creeping up over the last 20, 25 years. They have to. But what people don't understand about trees, and I'm going to put this very briefly, 70% of a fish is tree. The reason is when the trees shed their leaves, all of the broken down goodness gets washed into the streams, the rivers, the sea. It is fed on by microorganisms and bacterium, and they get fed on by bigger things and bigger things, the food chains, the food webs, and into the fish. And any fish, any 70% of a fish is generally tree, or the goodness from a tree. But there is a very important fact here. Among this enormous chain of microorganisms, you have tiny little microorganisms called coccolithopores. And they do their share of feeding, and they are fed on. But they produce one important molecule. Coccolithopores produce a molecule called dimethyl sulfide. It is the only molecule known at this point in time, the only molecule known, because it drifts out of the water into the air. And this is the only molecule known to take part, and that is necessary, in cloud formation. Now, if you go and cut down all of the trees in there, I think we're going to cut down 70 million or something. You cannot replace 70 million trees with 70 million saplings. The average age will be about 100 years, and the saplings will not do the same job. They will not absorb the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere for a start. Now, if you cut down the trees, you are cutting down the formation of clouds in the atmosphere, which means you will get droughts. It is as simple as that. We cannot go round cutting down that many trees if it isn't necessary, and the only way to have 5G is to cut down trees. So there is a balance there, and it needs to be known to somebody. Now, with 5G, I'm going to finish on 5G. When I spoke in Totnes not too long ago, just before Christmas, somebody was disagreeing with me, saying, we don't have that and we don't have that, and no, we don't. But it doesn't say that we will not have it. There is a lot more to 5G than just putting up little boxes on lampposts. 5G is the new generation. It is not a wave, it is a beam. It is going to be used by around 53 organizations in this country, plus the secret services, plus the military, plus the American bases and their frequencies. There are quite a lot of frequencies that people don't know about that are going up when you have a 5G transmitter, and most of them are secret. In fact, there are a lot. And 5G is going to merge. When I look at the frequencies, the spectrum across the whole range, 5G is going to merge basically with Wi-Fi 6. And they are already producing 6G. 5G and Wi-Fi 6 are getting very, very close together. They are going to be used in unison. Right, I need to keep these in order, or I should be a silly boy. Right, here we are. Now, for decision makers, two of the world's leading professors in this area wrote a letter to all of the Nordic prime ministers. It is a brilliant letter. I wish I had the skill to write this letter. I certainly don't. It is a brilliant letter. But before the letter, I just want to, what do I want to do? I want to read a legal opinion from an international attorney at law office regarding 5G. This is for decision makers, and it says, and you're welcome to pop out to my house and get all this stuff. It says, a international firm of law, a law firm. It is the conclusion of this legal opinion that establishing and activating a 5G network, as it is currently described, would be in contravention of the current human and environmental laws enshrined in the European Convention of Human Rights, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, EU regulations, and the Bern and Bonn Conventions. And going through documents, I have found, and these mean absolutely nothing to me, the UN Convention 1989, each state, and we come under the United Nations, each state has a legal responsibility to protect children to ensure maximum development. Articles 19 and 6. If you want to go to your school and quote the law, there you are. The Children's Act 1989, Part 3, Section 17. There is a legal obligation on local authorities to protect children against harm or the risk of. This stands apart as a likelihood or perceived risk is all that is necessary. It does not need proof. I believe that this only applies, and I'm not sure, to children who are in care, children who are fostered or adopted. But every school has one of those anyway, I would imagine. You have the Nuremberg Code, UN 1950, Article 7. Prohibits any experiment without consent. 5G is an experiment. In fact, all of them are experiments. Tetra Airwave is an experiment. But under the Nuremberg Code, any experiment that affects you bodily or your health is illegal unless you give your consent. There is only one exception, and I've only known it to be done once. Any doctor can experiment on his or herself. That is the only exception. That's part 5. Under EU law, a strategic environmental, now whether we are agreed whilst we were under EU law, I don't know, a strategic environmental assessment should be carried out before 5G. And if there is a problem and it wasn't carried out, the polluter, in other words, the decision maker, pays the principal or the costs for the cleanup. And that can be millions. A legitimate government must preserve the right to life, liberty, health of all of its citizens. That is the Treaties of Civil Government, Second Treaties, Chapter 2. And finally, the Health and Safety Act 588, law in this country, 1st of July 2016. Employers must protect those of higher susceptibility, monitor health for electromagnetic radiation, both thermal and not thermal. For example, auditory sensory disturbance, change in brain function. That is the law. The letter from the two professors to Nordic populations that it is a mistake to assume that the populations are experimental guinea pigs for a largest ever biological experimental guinea pigs for the largest ever biological experiment on humans. Such experiments are totally unlawful according to the Nuremberg Code, the Declaration of Human Rights, the Declaration of Children's Rights. According to the polluter pays the principle, has to pay for all harm they have caused to humans. Now, an experiment was carried out on 5G. An experiment was carried out in Russia, and I'm going to speed up these last bits. In 1977, I have the paper, an experiment was carried out on animals and humans using 5G. I won't go into the units, but the radiation level, the humans and the animals were subjected to was at a level of 62. They were subjected to a level of 62 for 15 minutes a day for 60 days. In other words, 15 hours. That's it. You can legally, under the International Commission and our government, under the thermal regulations, you and all of the animals and all the trees, if 62, and I'm going to list the illnesses caused from a level of 62, you can legally be given for 24 hours a day, non-stop, forever, a level of 140, more than twice. The professors listed damage to the skin, liver, heart, brain, adrenal glands, blood. The fetus, children, stem cells, human sperm, honeybee. And that was just from one paper. There's the paper. It's a top secret paper from Russia that I had sent to me. So with 5G, I can't really, if I can show it to you very quickly, if I can find it very, very quickly. There we are. With 5G, as I hold it up to show you, on the right is a normal transmitter, and on the left, as I show it to you, you have the pulse of the 5G signal. And you can, if you want, you can get there's an excellent article on 5G. This is from ESUK magazine, which you can download from the internet. This is a really good, because it goes into the frequencies and everything. If you want it, it's the ESUK magazine, Summer 2019, Volume 17, number 2. And if you can't remember that, give me a ring tomorrow and I'll have it by the phone and I'll tell you. And one last thing about 5G, and this isn't known by most people. Two things. One is that there is a paper by the World Health Organization that one of the 5G frequencies is known to cause eye damage and skin cancer. That is published. And there is something which is being tried. I get lots from the universities because, believe it or not, the university people developing this are more scared about what they're doing, whereas I'm prepared to take the risk. There is, the mathematicians and physicists will know this. It is called the, if I can remember it, it's called the Brillouin precursor, is what is being tried out. It is a 1 second pulse that will precede the laser beam. It is a 1 second pulse that will precede the laser beam up to 10 gigabyte in strength. And you really, really don't want anything like that flashing across your eyes or your skin. Nothing does. That is being tried out as a burst of energy so that you can download a whole movie or whatever. Now, just to finish off, it's not all gloom and doom. There is a very simple answer to this, all of this. There is a solution. All you have to do is run cables. Many countries, they don't have smart meters that use Wi-Fi. All of the smart meters run off cable. All of the cables into the schools, all of the Wi-Fi in the schools, well, it's not Wi-Fi, it is cabled from source. There are no microwaves in the air. If we took the trouble to run cables, just like telephone cables, everybody could have everything they wanted, even better, more secure, and better and faster. But we have 500 companies that are immensely powerful. They are pushing the Wi-Fi because they're getting as much money as they can, and this is how they are progressing. But the easy answer is just to have cable. If we run a cable along a forest, the trees are happy, the animals are happy, everybody is happy, you can have them into the schools. And if we turn down all of the transmitters, just turn them down, so that only the emergency services need them. If you're in a car and you break down in the middle of Dartmoor, you can ring. If we just had that system, which is what it was originally designed for, there would be no problem. But the problem is, and was unforeseen in the 70s, this system has been hijacked by children and addicts and everybody else, and the use was not thought up before they released this. And they are chemically and physically addictive. And I have articles from Scientific American Mind that show that children will demonstrate severe aggression where a child has threatened to murder her parents if they so much as touched her equipment, and a child has punched the mother in the face for touching the equipment. We're getting into that stage. But there is a solution, but the problem with the solution, and we go right back to the very first document, you will lose profit. And this really all comes down to money. And what I'd like to do now, we'll just get straight on, if we can, Charlie, please, straight on with questions.
Well done, everyone. I know, thanks, Barry. You're all doing really well. It's hard listening to this stuff. So we're going to have questions and answers. So we're going to cut it slightly shorter because we've all got homes to go to. So we don't want to go much past 10 o'clock. So we're going to have about 15 minutes for questions and answers. Hands up if you have...
Can I just say,
yes.
There is a gentleman who asked very, very early, he has a desperate question. Jonathan, is it Jonathan? To do with eyes. Sorry, could we have a question from Jonathan, please?
Yeah, thank you. It's about the 5G infrastructure, and part of that is going to be the LED street lighting. There is, in America, a researcher and lighting design mathematician who says that LED, in the form of the new streetlights and car headlights, is going to cause irreparable damage to everyone's eyesight, because LED light is rather like a laser light in that it's generated from a flat projector and has a beam-like capability. Could you talk about the health concerns in respect of LED light and how it might affect the optics?
Right, I'll go as far as I can. Yes to eye damage, yes to skin cancer. That's documented. Blue light. I'm assuming the blue light you're looking at is 450 to 500 nanometers.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Right. Blue light. Now there are radiation sensors, ganglions on the sides of the eyes. Their full function isn't fully understood, but it is known they pick up radiation and they send it back to the brain. Blue light is also known to go to the retina at the back of the eye. It is known to go to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus has special enzymes. They're called periods. Now, the enzymes in the molecules or the cells in the hypothalamus in the brain, it is known that under normal conditions without blue light, they travel to the outside of the molecule or the outside of the cell. There is a chemical reaction, I don't know what it is, but then they come back. The complete cycle takes 24 hours. Now, blue light is known to slow this down by up to 2 hours a day. Up to 2 hours a day. The hypothalamus, I know, controls the internal circadian resonant frequencies, our internal clocks. The hypothalamus is also connected to the pituitary, which releases hormones and can be responsible for behavior. Now, that is as far as my knowledge goes, but I'm just going to throw this out. Are there any medical professionals here? I would like to know, if you slow down the hypothalamus for up to 2 hours a day and it is continuous, is there any medical professional here that could enlighten me and everybody on any knock-on effect for organs or whatever it is I don't know about?
Thank you. Some years ago I was in Malta.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the gentleman behind you.
Oh.
Sorry.
Doing mental health studies in Malta, and they did various studies. And we had what we call blue rooms, mood rooms, which what you were stating there with the mitochondrial and the pituitary gland and around that area. And they found that there was mood suppressor, and people got not depressed, but you could stabilize the mood, but it also slowed the functions of the mind.
So what we're saying, in case they couldn't hear you at the back, it will change moods and suppress processes in the mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they also found out taurine in Red Bull actually lifted it.
Could I ask something else, sir, please? We're all adults and we are we have mechanisms that. How would that affect sort of? And I'm thinking of a teenager who is adolescent and probably is not in full control of their emotions or moods. Could you guess or give a professional opinion of how that would affect an adolescent?
I'm not quite on that level, and I'm going back 5 years for this study.
But it certainly would affect the stability of the mind anyway.
It does, and actually my son is 8 years old in Exwick Primary School, and I've noticed a mood change due to Wi-Fi activity there.
Yeah.
But there were 2 pills, and one of them is kind of banned in America now because of this. But I can't remember the study, so I don't want to quote myself.
Can I just add one thing to that, sir? I do know that in China they have opened up medical blocks now for this specific thing for children and mood changes. And the professor has written a brilliant paper. I can't remember his name. The professor has written a brilliant paper. And in the clinics right across China, the youngest child he's treating is 2. I can believe it. For addiction and mood behaviour. Sorry. Okay, questions?
Well, I've got a quick question for the audience. Put your hands up if you are now suffering from tinnitus. Yeah, if you weren't 5 years ago, but you're now suffering from tinnitus, put your hands up. Right up. Everyone can look around. How many people is that? That's 20%, 30% of the audience. Okay, any hands down? I'm back at school now. Questions? We have one question over here. I'm going to pass the mic to you.
2 quick questions. First, you said there was 3 organisms that were immune, and you said one was bacteria. What were the other 2?
The first are, and I don't know whether maybe somebody here will know, whether they are microorganisms or bacterium or what. They're called tardigrades, and NASA has beamed them into space and brought them back, and they've just come out of their little cocoon and thought, well, that was a nice rest. They seem impervious to everything. And the other the bacterium thrive, and the other was scorpions.
Oh, scorpions. Oh, that's interesting. And the other thing was, with the microwave technology, was it actually being worked on by ARPANET in the 50s and 60s?
Sorry,
ARPANET. Was it being worked on by ARPANET? The US ARPANET, the defense people who...
I'm sorry, I can't understand the question. In the 50s and 60s, was it worked on...
By ARPANET.
What's ARPANET?
ARPA, A-R-P-A. They were the defense, sort of, a lot of their work was secret.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't know.
Because you said that you were working on Cold War microwave technology.
Yeah, by 1949, they knew the brain frequencies, and they were changing behaviour just by beaming microwaves into animals and human brains. The only organisations I know are the Soviets, the CIA. We worked with them, but I don't know that particular acronym. Sorry.
Any more questions?
Well, we have no more than 10 minutes. Sorry.
Hi. Thank you for the evening.
That's my pleasure.
The presentation. Thank you. Just wondered, is there any truth in the idea that this is also not just about money, but a weapon of war, and an idea of depopulation, which is their intent?
That is a particularly... Is it a deliberate method of depopulation or a method of war? You've heard of HAARP, H-A-A-R-P in Alaska.
Manipulation of weather?
That can be used. I'm not saying it is or it has. It can be used because the microwaves can be any frequency, and they only need to tune it to a brain frequency, and it can be bounced or reflected off of the ionosphere, which is hydrogen and helium, down to any part of the planet. And there isn't one HAARP, there are 16 around the planet. They can be used to change weather. They can be used for bacterial warfare, and I can't go into how and why now. They can be used to cause illness, but yes, they have been used. The Soviets microwaved the Americans. Recently, in one country, the American embassy was microwaved. Cuba, yep. We microwaved the Catholics in Northern Ireland. The Americans microwaved the ladies at Greenham Common to give them cancer and make them sick. But now, and I'm not going to mention the country or the countries, and why I like this is because I would like this to go out and I would like people to take notice in these countries. But I know one country from my travels where there is a very heavy, I think there are about 2 million Muslim populations, density of Muslims, and the concentration of towers is within there. There are other areas of the planet where the extremely wealthy, and I'm not trying to start a civil war here, but they are exempt microwaves in their areas. There are areas of the planet where particular densities of poor, and I've been to them, and I fought a case for them, and we won, and I had the king backing me, where the transmitters were always put in the poorest, densest areas. So you could argue that, but whether it is deliberate, I'm not in the mind of the decision makers. So can we take one more question quickly?
You know, they're doing the small cells, 5G small cells every 100 meters, every 200 meters, and if you thought of it the other way, not the faster download speeds, but if you thought of it, you had an AK-47 on every street corner, you might think again about 5G.
Yeah, hi, Barry.
Yes.
Hi, Barry. I was living in Bristol, which is a 5G testbed, and it gave me cancer on my skin, and also I nearly lost my vision. It made me extremely fatigued over and over in years, and I tested the environment with a meter, and the exposure levels are horrendous. So I left my whole life behind. But my question to you would be, how do we protect ourselves from this stuff? I'm seeing a lot of products on the market that are giving out waves, like Blue Shield and stuff like that. Are these things actually working for us, or is there nothing to save us from 5G if we don't get it stopped?
Protection, it can be very, very costly. As far as we know at the moment, and may I say that is a brilliant question, and I only had the information, some of the information, yesterday from China. The new 5G, whether it's 5G or 6G, and I can't get my brain around why they're doing this at the moment, but a university has developed the 5G beam that will penetrate the metal casing on a cell phone. But my first thought was, well, if it can do that to the casing of a cell phone, what will it do to your eyes or your skin? And what is the purpose behind it? But at the moment, 5G you won't pick up on any of your acoustometers anyway. The mathematics for the beam is so complex that I don't know a mathematician in the world that can actually decipher what is actually inside the beam. There are many hundreds of frequencies being tested and tried. I don't know a single safe one. I can't think of any form of screening that will stop 5G unless, again, ESUK, they have a directory of, I think, 350 items, something like that, on their website that may stop different Gs, I don't know. 5G will not penetrate far into the house. It can be stopped by walls, unless they put the metal bit in. But 5G is having a carrier wave that will take it further. Its penetrative power is not strong when it comes to buildings and trees, but they are using carrier waves, namely 4G or 3G, 700 megahertz, to bring it further into the house. But it is designed to marry up and work with smart meters and the Wi-Fi and everything else. So at the moment, until 5G is established, we don't know how to block it because they haven't produced it. It's like saying we want a bulletproof jacket, but we haven't made the bullets. Until you've made the bullets, you won't know what works.
Great. Thanks so much, Barry.
Okay.
Much appreciated. Now, I want to wrap this up because, time, and as I said, we've all got homes to go to.
Can I just add something there as well, please?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, if I were a decision maker, a councillor or a school governor or something, I'm thinking of me. And somebody said, we want you to sign here because this is coming on your land, your territory, your property. I would say, very simply, give me the research paper. If I am the signatory, I take responsibility, and under this law, it is the principal who pays the costs. If I am signing for this, give me a research paper that says pregnant women, the animals, the trees, children will be unharmed for the duration that they are in front of it. Give me one research paper. I will send it for independent peer review to Nature publications or a top-rate journal, and I will see what their reply is. And they will come back and say, there is no safe level for a child ever. But I would safeguard myself, and I'm not saying this as a threat, but I do get a lot of councillors and legal people coming to my house saying, can we take the council to court under civil law? And I don't know, but the pot is boiling, and if I were a decision maker, I would want something cast iron. So give this to me, I will make my own decision, I will not be bullied.